Hey everybody, Eric Dorward here with the Spartan Rocketry Club, and it is time to continue assembling the Black Brant here, and we are on to the full-blown construction phase here where things get put together. This time, we actually do need epoxy. So a word about epoxy. First of all, I'm going to be wearing a glove for this. I'm not going to put it on just quite yet, but uh, you should only use epoxy if you are an adult. Not because you're going to glue your hands together, but because people can develop allergic reactions to epoxy and it's cumulative. So, yeah, you don't want to start exposing yourself to this stuff, getting it all over your hands ever, really. But certainly not if you are not yet a grown up. Second, I have I bought this particular kind of epoxy. It's binary. All epoxy is binary, but this you mix it up yourself. There are a couple reasons for that. One is it is cheaper to buy this kind and do it yourself. For comparison's sake, the instructions here, there we go, they call, or the little diagram they show you is right here. You can go out and you can buy an epoxy like stick that has a plunger, and it is actually nice to use. It's easy. The problem is, um, once you use it, you don't get a lot of uses out of it, even though it's a fairly small dose size. Now they come with these little um, I don't know, like nozzles, but the nozzles basically are only good for one pop each. And I find that I end up being pretty wasteful with those. So I am happy to just mix it myself, save a buck, and get pretty much exactly what I want. So, all that being said, yeah, it's time to mix up a batch. But first, let's go over the protocol here. I'm going to squeeze this stuff out. I'm just going to kind of eyeball it, frankly, because it doesn't have to be perfect. But what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be reassembling this for like the umpteenth time. Get this stuff out of the way. And yeah, on it goes like so. Oops. Yeah, this is actually why I wanted to test it, because I was pretty sure I had it upside down. Yeah. So anyway, woo, it's going to go on like this. Yeah, that was a little sticky. This particular part of the tube. There we go. All right, and then this part goes on the top, and I should have a little bit sticking out. So that's great. Now, let's disassemble. This is not going to go on it at all anytime soon. It is just for spacing purposes. But I am going to be epoxying pretty much everything else out of this into place. All right, and another thing, I thought about it a little bit more, and since I'm going to be epoxying anyway, I think I am going to just put a bit of epoxy around these joints that I've already made with the wood glue. All right, epoxy time. Now I'm going to be applying this, not with my hands, of course. I'm going to be using a dowel. And I'm just going to squeeze out a good measure of this stuff. Try to keep about the same amount of each type of goop. This one, the black one, whichever one this is, each one does a different thing. This one, nozzle isn't going as fast, so there we go. By themselves, these two things do like nothing. But when you mix them together, then you get an incredibly strong glue. All right. The other thing, by the way, to note is that epoxy comes in a variety of set times. This one that I bought is 5 minutes. That means I've got 5 minutes before what is glue in the bottom of that cup presently turns into a brick. And naturally, the brick isn't going to be terribly useful. So I need to get this done. You can buy longer set time epoxy, but then you also need to be aware that it's going to take longer before, there we go, before you can like let it go. All right, so I've mixed this up pretty thoroughly. I am going to brush some of this just into the groove here, and I've got, it's working up the sides here, so that's no good. Again, I don't need to worry too much about this, honestly, because this is just a reinforcement more than anything else. I could probably actually use a narrower dowel. That might actually be a good idea, because I'm getting a lot of this up where I don't want it. So let's switch. This one I'm pretty sure I've already used as an epoxy stick in the past because I've got a weird glob on it. All right. So just going to kind of brush it into the joint. Now, again, the reason that I'm using epoxy here is because I think there actually is a decent chance that I will end up launching this with a composite motor rather than a gunpowder motor at some point. And pretty much if you want to exceed, well, it doesn't hurt, right? It doesn't hurt to make the joint stronger. If you want to use composites, I mean, not every composite has an incredibly high thrust, maximum thrust output either. Like you can buy 18 millimeter composite motors, and they tend to have thrusts that are comparable but not identical to what you'd get with a black powder motor. I might have to make up some more of this, but we'll go from there. All right, so the joint is reinforced. I put one glove on because this hand is just not going to touch the epoxy. It's not going to be anywhere near it, so I'm not too worried about that. Now, I need to put some epoxy on the interior of this. In fact, on the interior of both sides of it. So I think I'm just going to do that. No, I guess the instructions say to do it one bit at a time, and that's fine for me. There's no real reason why I need to get, take care of this. Now, this is not going to work any differently from brushing the glue, any kind of glue really, on the inside. The only thing that you can really be sure of here is that it's got 5 minutes, well, less than that now, but it's not like super glue. It is not going to instantly set. So you don't have to worry about that, at least. Yeah. Okay. All right, so this goes on. This goes down. Oh, wait, sorry, that's not right. Now that's right. It goes down like this. And this business goes down. And I had it upside down, so that's not super helpful. There we go. Okay. And I can feel that lining up. Remember, I wanted to make sure that I had this seam lined up with the seam in this tube here. So that's done. I actually do want this just down there as a spacer. And now, there we go. I'm going to put the last bit of epoxy that I need right now on the interior here. And this is actually going to be a little bit difficult. I kind of wish well, there are definitely ways that I could do this that would not be that bad, but I'm just going to do my best to brush on the inside here. For the record too, epoxy stinks. Like when I am done, I mix these things up in a little, like, I don't know what you call it, Dixie cup, bathroom cup, because this is going right in the trash. And in fact, it's not just going to go in the trash. It's going to go all the way outside of the dumpster because I do not need this stuff reeking. anywhere in my house because it's nasty. It stinks. All right, next on goes this piece. Again, I need to line up the seam, and that is done. Great. All right, so just checking over the instructions here. I have I've reassembled it. I've epoxied the two parts of the tongue around the body tube here. Everything is put into place. Everything is lined up. The next bit, if I actually, I have some epoxy yet left. I'm going to try to get this done, but I don't know that I'm actually going to have a chance here, but I'm going to try it. The next thing I need to do is this. So this green tube here, the instructions say I'm supposed to remove the inner wrap of paper from G. So I'm not entirely sure how much that means, but I'm just gonna kind of dig into it here with my hobby knife and try to take some of it off. I don't, of course, want to dig the whole way through, and that would not be hard to do, frankly, because there aren't a lot of layers to this. So I'm just going to kind of wiggle my knife here gently. For some reason, I'm taking it off not very consistently. But you know what? That's probably good enough. If I need to cut off more, I will. All right, now the next thing I need to do is I need to get this. I need to punch this out. So I'm going to need this bit as well. And there we go. Okay. So I'm going to, I also need to get that little hole. That I'm going to actually use the knife because there's no way I would be able to punch that with any accuracy. Okay. That's gone. Okay, now the other thing that I need here is I need this Kevlar, whoopsie, there we go, Kevlar thread here. This is the beginnings of how the shock cord is going to be assembled. So I'm going to wrap that around tube A, tie it in a double knot, and then I need to thread that through this. I think I'm supposed to go through this. Yeah, I don't think that's going to actually happen. Yeah. Thread opposite end of K through the small hole. Well, that's going to stink. Let's try this end. I'm actually going to try to do this first because it'll be marginally easier, maybe. Okay, there we go. All right, good. Yeah, I'm really glad I didn't have to do that while the rocket was in process. All right, so I need to wrap this around. I need to tie a double knot. Probably can't see what I'm doing, but that's okay. So there we go. That's tied. And then this bit is going to slide over the top in line, ideally, with where that knot is. There we go. Like so. All right. And I need to glue this in place. This I'm just going to use regular wood glue for, so this can come back down for a moment. Okay. I'll just try to get the glue. I don't actually need to have too much here because this does not appear to be a particularly critical. There we go. It's adhering to itself. There we go. That ought to be pretty good. actually going to, there we go. I'm going to brush this in place a little bit, just kind of smooth it out. So it was kind of clumpy. That's better. All right, lovely. This is going to get squished downwards, and it needs to slide it down into place. But not that far. This is just going to line up with the edge here. It's not actually going to go inside the plastic part, although part of it has. I just want it at the edge. And then, last but not least, the green part that I cut around a little bit, that's going to go on the top. Now, the reason that I removed some of the inner fibers, really shouldn't be wearing a glove here, I think. The reason that I removed some of the fibers here is so that, is so this will actually slide over. Yeah, there, that's better. Yeah, like that. Like so. All right, I'm gonna, there's some glue on there. That should stick. But this whole thing is still, it's not firmly set because 5-minute epoxy, right? It hasn't been full 5 minutes, I guess. So things are still kind of sliding around here. And that ought to do. Okay. Last thing in this video anyway, none of the instructions have said to let this dry, and there's probably a good reason for that. The last thing I need to do is this piece I, threading this through, and then this is going to fit right on top like so. But again, it's plastic onto cardboard, so it requires some epoxy. So I've still got some of this left. It is starting to get tacky. Oh, I don't know. My 5 minutes might be up. Yeah, well, that's a shame. Yeah, the epoxy that I have in here it's probably too late for this. Yeah, it's pretty hard. I basically have I could try it, I guess. I don't really have a nice thin goop anymore. I've got a very thick, viscous mess. It's almost like spider webs. Well, try it. Get that out of there because that is about to get glued in place permanently. Okay, I'm actually gonna drape this in upside down just so it's easier to thread. And oh, there goes that retainer again. Okay, and there we go. It's in place. Hallelujah! Just in time. All right. Well, that's it's not all the epoxy, unfortunately, but it's a lot of the epoxy, and this piece is essentially done, at least for now. All right. I hope you got to see a lot of that because I have to be honest, I wasn't completely paying as close attention to the video output of this as I usually was because let's face it, I don't use epoxy terribly often. I am not like an expert at using epoxy. I'm not the worst at it, but I do tend to get a little, I don't know, it's a little anxiety building for me at least. So this part is ready to have the fins attached. So that should be the next step of construction. That is more epoxy. So fun. Anyway, this needs to completely set, and I'll be back in the next video to get the fins on. See you then.